So context of this particular call is how you would be able to appear for the interviews, right? So what I'll try to do is, guys, I'll try to ask a few questions from all of you. Maybe you can try to answer as per your expertise, right? So I'll just try to give you a gist what and how they will be approaching you for the interviews, like when the interviews will start, what kind of technical questions they may put across or how they can put across, right? So guys, my very basic question is, let's say I need to create an application, right? Let's say we are into the healthcare business and we need to create the application. So what will be your approach? How will you create an application, right? So which service will you use to create an application?
So
Or yeah,
if it's already developed, we
no,
need
it's
to.
it's not developed. So we will be developing. Let's say we are coming up with a new application, right? Let's say we are into a healthcare industry and we have to plan a new application so that any patients that visit our hospital or healthcare center, whenever they go outside, let's say their treatment is done, their prescription is done, maybe they can simply use that application and they can simply see the prescription or the test or the amount he or she has paid for their treatment. So what will be your approach?
So first, seeing the requirement, like what kind of information do you need? What kind of customer information is required?
Let's say
Uh,
first
these are,
name, last name that we can store inside a
yeah,
database.
yes, yes. Uh, and apart from that, we have to see that this data doesn't get leaked according to, let's say, HIPAA. Yeah.
I think we are moving towards data. My question is, how will you design the application? Like whether you which service you will use to host the application.
So is it IaaS like IaaS or like you are asking the PaaS or SaaS, right?
Yeah, that is yeah. So tell me, how should I decide whether I should go with IaaS, whether I should go with PaaS? How should we decide this?
I think infrastructure as service IaaS.
Okay, any reason we are going with the infrastructure as a service and not with the platform as a service? If I'm going with infrastructure as a service or if I'm going with platform as a service, be it anyone, there has to be a logical reason behind this. So what drives us towards the infrastructure as a service?
Because we require infrastructure like to host our applications and all, and it's
That,
more I think customizable as per our requirement or compatibility.
but the application can be deployed on the platform as a service as well, right? If it's only about hosting, yeah, I completely agree with your second point that we get more control in the infrastructure as a service, right?
Okay.
What your organization is requirement, like if you don't want to have a dedicated control of these applications, that where they have to be hosted, or if you're owning everything, then based on that, I think we can decide if it's a IaaS application or a PaaS based. But on the development front, if we are developing, we should be knowing that which geographical location we are serving these customers, and how they want to reach out to the application, what would be the type of authentication protocol, or how they want to authenticate with it. So are these users
SSO and all also like SSO
part of the
security
organization or
features
not?
uh, and the credentials and all also like how it will authenticate.
So very good input, guys. See, let me share a few more inputs from my side as well. See, first of all, as we discussed in the starting, first of all, we need to decide whether we want more control towards the application or whether we would like to have a less overhead. Means whether we want more control onto the infrastructure where the application is running or whether we would like to have less control, whether we want more it to be a managed service. I'm sure you would have seen when we buy a car, we need to decide whether we would like to buy a car where we can put the gears, right, accordingly as per our choice, or maybe if we want to go with less overhead, we can go with the automatic version where we do not have to put the gear number one, gear number two, and so on, right? So if you want better control onto the infrastructure where the application is running, maybe let's say you need to run a script onto a machine, onto a virtual machine where the application is running, or maybe you need to make some configuration changes onto that particular machine, then you will go with virtual machine or you will go with virtual machine scale set. Means you will go with infrastructure as a service. If we want less overhead, we want it to be a managed service, We want the underlying infra where the application will be running. We don't want to do the patching. We don't want to manage the scaling. We don't want to manage the high availability. We want everything to be taken care by Azure. Then we will go with platform as a service. Now, again, it depends whether you are going with a microservice architecture, whether you are going with a monolithic kind of an approach. If you are going with a monolithic kind of an approach, maybe you can go with the app services, you can go with the virtual machines, right? If we are looking for a container based application, then our option would be we can go with the Azure container instance, or we can go with the Kubernetes services. So it entirely depends what kind of an approach we want, right? Now, guys, let's say we have decided that we will be going with the platform as a service. We will be deploying the application inside the app services, right? And let's say it will be deployed using the Docker container image. So where are we deploying the application? Inside the app services using the Docker container image. So guys, tell me, how would you manage the high availability of such application? So how the high availability can be managed? I hope the question is clear. Any questions regarding the query that I have put across?
No idea about this.
See guys, answer lies within the question. I am saying that we are going with the PaaS service. App services is a category of PaaS service. Am I correct? Now, if I am going with app services, whether I deploy my application using a code or whether I deploy my application using a container, any such method I use, I do not need to worry about the high availability. It will be taken care by Azure. Benefit of the PaaS services is less overhead. So high availability will be taken care by Azure. Sometimes interviewer might trick you, right? It's a very basic point. It will be taken care by Azure. Okay, guys, let's yeah, please go ahead.
No. I just telling okay.
Okay. Now I will ask very basic question. Let's say, okay, let's say I have an application, maybe it's an app service. We are using it as a PaaS service. We have built it, let's say ASP.NET application, and the application is connecting to a SQL database. So guys, can you tell me how can the application connect to a SQL database? What? Mhm.
So I think through database we need to configure the connectivity.
Okay, can you precisely tell me what precisely we need from the database side?
I think we need to connect through the credentials and all, like in AD and all, we need to configure
Karan, I
service
think
and
your voice is breaking, so unable to hear you properly. Can you please repeat again?
I think it's database. We need to configure the application service.
We can use some connector or to connect the application data to be transferred to the database SQL server.
Okay, see, whenever, first of all, whenever let's say I'm creating a SQL DB, right? Whenever we are creating a SQL database, there will be a SQL server. Always there will be a SQL server. Database gets hosted inside a SQL server. Now, this could be a physical server, this could be a logical server, right? Whenever you create a database, you will get something called as connection string. You will get something called as connection string. You need to copy this connection string from a SQL database. Then you need to come to the application and you need to put this over here. The value of this connection string, which you would be able to, guys, I'm sure you have seen the storage account. Okay, let's make it very simple. If the question would have been, you have an application, you need to connect the application with a storage. Let's say I have a storage account with the name Jitin Storage. That is my storage account. I am saying inside the storage account, I have got some data. Inside the storage account, what do we store? We store data. This is my application. Now this application need to connect to this storage account. How can we connect? I'm sure you remember that every storage account has access keys, and every storage account with every access key, we get one connection string, right? Same concept. You can simply pick up the connection string. You can go to your application. You can put the connection string over here. Or when you create a SQL database, then also you will get a well-defined connection string. You can take that connection string and you can put the connection string inside the application. That's how you would be able to connect the application to a database, right? Any questions, any queries, anything guys so far? Okay, now please tell me if I need to connect or if I need to extend my on-premise Active Directory to Azure, how can I extend my on-prem Active Directory to Azure?
You already connected.
AD connect.
Okay,
it at your server.
so can you please explain me in detail what the AD Connect will do, what I would be able to achieve with the help of AD Connect?
So with AD Connect, you have objects in your Active Directory, and basically Azure AD Connect runs a synchronization service in which you have options for import and export, and then you have sort of something called a metadata, and whatever data, let's say at device which is in a Active Directory, if it has to go to Azure Active Directory, it will have something called as a user certificate. If that attribute is present, that particular data gets synchronized to Azure Active Directory. Same way with the user and rest of the data.
Okay, good. Let me ask you something. In Windows Server, we have Active Directory, right?
Yes.
If you have seen the user or if you have seen the group in the Windows Server, it has got something called as SID, right?
Sync.
When we create a user in Azure AD, it has got something called as object ID. It does not have this attribute called as SID, right? Now, when we are syncing the user with the help of Azure AD Connect tool, so will this SID come over here or will it convert this SID into object ID, or what will happen in the background?
Uh, I suppose that the object ID would be converted into the attribute which is recognized by Azure Active Directory.
Okay, I think the statement itself is not correct. Object ID is converted. See, what are we syncing? Are we syncing
Sorry,
users from on-prem to Azure AD? Or
on-prem to Azure AD.
do we have any object ID in on-prem?
No, no.
So object ID is not being converted anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now let's come to very basic part of it. Where will you deploy this Azure AD Connect tool?
On-prem server.
Okay. So let's say I have 3 machines in my on-prem: VM1, VM2, and VM3. On which machine you will deploy it?
Anything that
No,
is,
no, it will go for the GC or DC server, like the main controller.
it should be
Okay.
line of sight of DC.
Let's say this is DC. This is my, let's say, vm1.jitin.com. And these two machines are on work group right now. They are my on-premise machine, but they are in work group, right? So tell me on which machine you will deploy the Azure AD Connect.
VM1.
Okay, should be deployed on VM1. Okay, then what does VM2 and VM3 will be doing?
So what happens is that this server, right, it needs to have delegation permission to
Server needs to have a delegation permission, right?
yeah.
Is that what you're referring? Okay, what does delegation permission means here?
Like if you want to create any kind of a directory or any kind of object in your domain controller, it needs to have some sort of I don't think that it is needed in Azure AD Connect, but the line of sight with DC is required. Delegation, I don't think it is required.
When you say line of sight in DC is required, what does
So
it mean?
you should be able to ping it. It should be part of the network, same network.
I should be able to ping what?
Domain controller.
From where?
From the virtual machine where you are installing this, the virtual server where you are installing this.
Okay, so if I'm installing it on VM number 1, I am pinging VM number 1
Okay, the
from VM number
DC.
1 to VM number 1, right?
So the DC is, if the DC is the same server, it will work, but it is not recommended because it has to be internet facing.
It has to be internet facing.
Yeah, so the DC is not recommended because it's a security flaw. VM2 and 3 shouldn't be qualifying ideally because they don't have any contact with domain controller.
Domain, it's not domain join.
Yeah.
Okay, are VM2, VM3 are they member server?
Member of domain.
Are they member server?
Member of domain or
What
No,
do you
I think
understand?
they are not member actually.
Yeah,
As you said, they are at work group.
they're at work group. So can we make them as member server? From work
Yes,
group,
yes.
can we change them to domain?
Yeah, we can connect
yeah,
to domain.
yeah.
So can I make it to vm2.jitin.com,
You have to join into the domain. Yes.
vm3.jitin.com? Now they are now member servers,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
can I install Azure AD Connect tool here,
Yes.
or can I install it on VM number 3,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do it. See, these are the kind of approaches you have to give them. It is quite possible you may get some direct questions. It is quite possible they may give you some scenarios, right? If in case they are going to ask you 10-15 questions, all of them will not be straightforward. So there will be some scenarios. See what the scenario will be, no one can comment on it, but yeah, you can just try to think about it. So whenever you are seeing a statement, just try to think what logically, what practically you can do, so that it will be a good architecture. Now let me ask you one more question. See, now let's say I have deployed the Azure AD Connect tool here, right? And let's say this VM number 2, this machine does not have a public IP, right? Now
Okay.
my question to all of you is, how will this Azure AD Connect tool sync the users from here to the Azure Active Directory? How the users were flowing from on-prem to Azure AD?
You need to have access to the login.microsoft.com, and there are certain endpoints which are required. So login is for your ID and password that you need to authenticate. But if you don't have a public IP, the internet will not work. So you would have to, I think, add a public IP to this NIC of the on-prem server.
Okay. Do we have any other method that without going via internet, we can send the users from
Site
on-prem to Azure
site
AD?
site to site VPN is something that they can do.
Okay. Site to site VPN, you are saying. Okay. See here, if I have the domain controller, if I have the machines, here I will have some network. Maybe let's say network number 1,
Yeah.
right? Is your Azure AD, let's say I have a VNet number 1 here. In Azure, I have a VNet number 1.
Mhm.
Let's say I create a site to site between VNet number 1 and network number 1, where these machines are lying. I think this is what you were referring to,
Yeah.
right? So let's say I put it here, site to site. We are sending the users from this network number 1 to the Azure AD. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Is Azure AD a part of my virtual network in Azure?
No.
Yes.
Uh, I
Answer
am
is
no because if you are creating a domain controller which is on the cloud, then you can decide that what IP it has to be. I don't think for Azure AD, I think that is owned by Microsoft. I am not sure if there is a direct line of sight with the Azure Active
Guys, I'm,
Directory.
I'm sure you would have created the networks multiple times by now.
Yes, so in our resource group, we can create virtual machine. We can create VNets separately.
Can have you ever created the Azure AD inside your virtual network?
We have created domain controller inside the virtual network. Uh, Azure Active Directory, I am not sure. I'm not really
Not
inside.
possible. Not
Yeah,
possible.
not yeah,
Azure AD
exactly.
is a different service altogether.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's not a
yeah,
part of your VNet. So if you even do site-to-site
yeah.
connectivity,
It won't
do
work.
you feel you would be able to send the users from Azure AD, from on-prem AD to Azure AD via
No,
private
no,
connection?
no.
So do you feel we have any method?
Uh, Azure AD. I haven't seen any options as such.
Have you heard
Uh,
about ExpressRoute?
yes.
What does ExpressRoute do?
So basically, it is working on Microsoft backbone network, in which you
Hold on,
contact
hold on,
the.
hold on. Is it working on Microsoft Azure backbone network? Is that true?
The ISPs, I think that, like, let's say that my office is here, and then there's a specific ISP,
Okay.
let's say Airtel. So the contact would happen from the fiber net of my office to the ISP, and I think then they connect to the backbone network. That's what my understanding
Right,
is.
right. Then later on they connect to the backbone network. Absolutely. So can we do this connection? Can we sync the users from on-prem AD to Azure AD via
ExpressRoute.
ExpressRoute?
So in theory, Azure Active Directory would be connected to the backbone network. Uh,
Okay, can Azure AD connect to the backbone network privately? Where is the Azure AD running? What do you feel? Where is this Azure AD running? See, Azure AD is like a service to us, but actually this service will be running somewhere
yeah,
where
data centers.
Microsoft data centers, right?
Yeah.
Azure AD will be running in all the Microsoft data centers or somewhere in the Microsoft data center. So can Azure AD connect to the backbone network over a private connection?
Yes.
Using the ExpressRoute circuits, can we connect the backbone network to our on-prem network via private connection? If any organization, let's say it's a banking organization, let's say it's a healthcare organization, or maybe you, in layman terms, you can think of the organization, let's say, who has recently created a corona virus dose. Do you feel it would be highly confidential information? Do you feel they would sync their users from on-prem to Azure AD via the internet? Maybe not,
Yeah.
right? They do not want to disclose. Security is it's a major concern for them. So maybe they would like to go with the private connection. But if we are going with the express route, it would be a very, very costly solution. But yes, security will be top notch.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, any queries so far, guys?
But how would you know how to create a private channel between the Azure Active Directory and your on-premise?
See,
Like what?
there are two peerings. When you create the express route, there are two types of peering in the express route. One is we called as private peering, and one is we called as Microsoft peering. Private peering means, see, inside your on-premise, you will have a network. Inside the on-premise, you will have your network. Inside the on-premise, inside the Azure, you will have your virtual network. If you are connecting your on-prem network to your virtual network, then in the express route, you would be able to connect them with the help of private peering. There are other services in the Microsoft data center, services like Office 365, services like SharePoint Online, services like Azure AD, right? Services like SQL DB.
Mhm.
We are using it as a PaaS service. So where are these services running? Let's say from your on-premise machines. These are your on-premise machines. In your on-premise machine, you will be using SharePoint Online, you will be using Office 365. So from your on-prem machine, when you use Office 365, are you using it over a public internet normally? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
But where are these services running? They are running inside the Microsoft data center, but they are
Yes.
not running inside our virtual network. Is the Office 365 running inside your virtual network?
Not from public.
No. So basically, for this kind of a connection to our on-prem network, we use Microsoft peering, right? It means if you create a Microsoft peering between these services or between any of these services and to your on-prem network from VM1, VM2, VM3, you can access Office 365 over a private channel. You can access SharePoint Online over a private channel, right? Any questions, any queries, anything, guys, for me before we move forward? Okay, guys, tell me how would you achieve a DR site? let's say you are running your, okay, my question to you is, you are running your application inside a VM. Now it is a business critical application. You want this application to be highly available, highly redundant, and let's say this application is running in East US. So how will you ensure that this application is up every time or most of the time, even though the East US region is going down, or even though
Avail
the data center inside the East US region is going down, the application should be up. So what will you do to achieve this?
Availability zone.
Yeah, high availability zone. So,
Okay, so one option is high availability zone. So what will you do to put it into the high availability zone? Can you elaborate?
yeah, we can replicate it to, like, for example, West US or some other part where the service is
Central
available.
India or something.
Is that what we mean by high availability zone?
No, I think this is this availability zone only, or it is a at where like the data center is available for Microsoft.
Okay, can you please elaborate what do you understand by availability zone?
Availability
Cross
zone.
cross region data replication. So if you are in America, North America, and there is a data center which is somewhere close by, then I think that if failure happens, it will fall from one region to another region.
Natural disaster, something happens, so it will replicate. It
Guys,
will.
I'm so sorry to say this, but I think we are moving in the wrong direction, right? See, I was not expecting at least this answer from you. Availability zone is, see, okay, tell me first of all, how many regions contains availability zone?
3.
Let's start from a beginning. How many regions Azure has got?
100 and
17, 7 or something.
Okay, guys. So Azure has got more than 60 plus regions, right? This is what we started on day one when we talk about the physical architecture. At the very top, we have regions, and Azure has got 60 plus regions. East US, West US, UK South, South India,
Central India.
across the globe, right? After that, we discussed regarding availability zone. Can you tell me 3 points regarding the availability zone that we discussed?
So
I think availability zones means like they are physically separate locations.
Okay, they are when we say when we say they're physically separate location, are they part of one region? Are they part of different region?
One region only.
Okay, so can you tell me out of 60 plus regions, your answer is absolutely correct. They are physical separate locations within one region. Within one region. So when we say we are replicating to from East US to West US, the statement becomes contradictory, right? So when we were saying earlier, we were replicating from East US to West US, the statement itself become contradictory, right? But yeah, this statement is correct. They are physically separate locations within one region. If I give you in very, very layman terms, consider Delhi as one region. In Delhi, we have a place called as airport. In Delhi, we have a place called as Qutub Minar. In Delhi, we have a place called as Red Fort. They are three physical different locations. So you can think of Delhi as one region where Microsoft has deployed their data center at Red Fort. They have deployed their data center at Qutub Minar, and they have deployed their data center at airport, international airport, let's say, right? So out of 60 plus regions, approximately, I'm just giving you an approximate number, 20 to 22 regions contains availability zone. All the regions do not contain availability zone. Any region that contain availability zone will have 3 zones: zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, right? Any region that contain availability zone, it will have 3 zones: zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So first of all, now let's come here. If I want my application to be highly available, if I want my application to be highly available, if you go through those videos again, you will find out in order to get the benefit of the availability zone, we need to deploy minimum 2 machines, minimum 2, on which the same application is running, but across different availability zones. So I will put VM number 1 where application number 1 will be running, which will be running in zone 1 in the East US region. I will be deploying VM number 2, same application is running, same application is running, but this time in a different zone. See guys, I am not replicating. So far, I am not replicating anything. I have deployed the same application in VM number 1. I have deployed the same application in VM number 2. Right? Okay. So if in case, let's say one zone goes down, my application is running on a different zone. That is how I'm becoming redundant. I am becoming redundant at a update level failure, fault domain level failure, rack level failure, data center level failure, zone level failure. Can you tell me guys what is the SLA for availability zone?
I think 99.9%.
99
9%.
Is it 99.9? Is it 99.95? What it is precisely?
95, right?
It is 99.99.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, tell me something. If I would be deploying the VM number 1 in application number 1 in South India, can I put my machine in the availability zone? Can I put the application on my machine in the availability zone?
No, because three we only have two zones, right, in India. So
Central India and South India.
Okay. So can I put my machine into the availability zone or not?
it's not supported, I think.
Absolutely. See, we clearly discussed here, out of 60 plus regions, only 22 regions contain availability zone. All the regions do not contain availability zone. See, I understand you cannot remember by heart that which region contain availability zone, which region do not contain availability zone. Answer to that question is very simple. If South India contains availability zone, then answer is yes. If South India do not contain availability zone, then answer is no.
No.
FII, South India do not contain availability zone, right?
Yeah.
So not possible. Now my question is, if it's not possible with the help of availability zone, how can I achieve a better redundancy in that on that region which do not contain availability zone? What are my options here?
Virtual machine scale set, like we can have multiple virtual machines.
I can create multiple machines here as well. It's not mandatory only with the help of virtual machine skill set I can do it. I can have VM1, VM2, VM3, VM4, VM5, multiple machines. What is the option for the redundancy, for the high availability on a region which do not contain availability zone?
I have a DR site in another region.
See, DR site is the secondary option. Okay, tell me some. Let me share you something, guys. I'm sure you have heard about it, the stock exchange is running in Mumbai, right? Let's say the stock exchange is running in Mumbai, right? So first, what I will try to do, let's say it is running on one building. In one building, there are data centers where the stock exchange application is running. On a given day, that building can go down.
Yes.
Maybe let's say there is a power failure on that building, it's down, right? Wouldn't it be nice if I run the same copy of the stock exchange application, maybe let's say 10 kilometers away on a different building in Mumbai, right?
Yes.
If the entire Mumbai is down, let's say Mumbai is hit by tsunami, or maybe Mumbai is hit by some other natural calamity, the entire Mumbai is down, then maybe I
Yes.
will create my DR site, maybe in Hong Kong. My first option would be, Okay, maybe one building is down, one floor is down. I am running the servers, the application, maybe on a different building. Maybe it could be adjacent to the same building. It could be 10 miles away from that building, right? So wherever the availability zones are not available, there you can use availability set for the
Like for example, we have Central India, so we can put one in South India, one in Central India, right?
no. I think no. That is, see, when you are putting one in South India, when you are putting one in Central India, now you are achieving it at a region level. I am talking about the same region within the same data center we are talking about. One that you are referring will come into a picture when we assume of a scenario when the entire region may go down. Then we will have that design.
But just like for example, Central India is also like far away. For example, South India, we have a data center at Bangalore. It goes down. For example, in on-prem, how we are achieving like one office we have at Bangalore, one is at Gurgaon. So example, if one Gurgaon goes down, so DR will automatically start working at no, the Bangalore one.
Yeah, then we have
So
to initiate a failover. It does not start automatically. We have to initiate a failover.
mhm. So here, what we are trying to achieve means we want to have the same infrastructure in the same state or same region. So it's a bit confusing there.
Okay, think of this. We have an office in Gurgaon. In Gurgaon, let's say we have 3 buildings,
Okay.
right? I am saying the application is running in building number 1.
Okay.
First of all, there can be a scenario when only the building number 1 can go down.
Okay.
I'm saying I would like to run the same application in building number 2 as well.
Okay.
Now, what will happen if building number 1 goes down? Can we access the application still in Gurgaon?
Yes.
Yes, from building number 2, right?
Yes.
I am saying the entire office is down. All 3 buildings are down.
Yes.
Can I access my application now from the Bangalore side?
No.
Right? So first, we are trying to achieve the redundancy within the same region.
Same region.
If I'm saying the entire region goes down, then I will be creating a DR site.
Fine.
Or then I will be going with that scenario that you mentioned earlier, that run the application in Central India, run the application in South India as well.
Okay.
Right?
Understood.
All right. Wonderful. Okay, guys. Guys, just a very basic question. Can you tell me how can we, okay, how can you monitor an virtual machine? So what are the different things you can use so that you would be able to monitor a machine well?
We can use monitoring alerts and all like Azure monitoring.
OMS, Azure OMS, and Azure Monitor Log Analytics.
Right. So what does log analytics do?
So you can query a specific machine on certain set of attributes that let's say a CPU utilization is high, let's say about 100%, then it will give you a report that, okay, hey, these devices are reporting a high CPU utilization.
Okay,
For
but
example,
how are we able to find that out? The device is reporting high CPU or
there
high
is,
memory.
I think there is a inbuilt Windows 10 OMS software which kind of sends the telemetry data continuously, and you can suck in on that data and create a report out of it.
Okay. So you are saying by default, if I create a new VM, it will automatically start sending data to log analytics workspace. Am I correct?
Either that or there was an onboarding process also. I remember I did long time back. But in Intune, there's, if you're enrolled into Intune, you can directly tap into the log analytics section and you can find it out. Whether these certain aspects of the device, let's say logical disk space is running high or something like that. But I think there is an onboarding that needs to be done in general.
Absolutely correct. Onboarding has to be done in general. So what does onboarding means? You will go to the log analytics workspaces. You will go to the virtual machine section over there, and you will connect the virtual machine with the log analytics workspace? First, you have to connect a machine.
Yeah.
When you basically connect a machine, an agent gets installed inside the virtual machine. You can think of this as a log analytics agent is being deployed inside the machine. And with the help of that agent, we are able to collect the information inside the log analytics workspace.
Yeah.
Because we are able to collect the information, let's say we are able to collect some matrices, we are able to collect some logs. Now we can query the logs. Whatever precise information you are looking for, you can query the logs. It uses KQL, Custo Query
Okay.
Language format, to
Yeah.
query the certain logs, right? My question to all of you is, let's say I'm not using virtual machine, I'm using app services, right? I'm using app services. Maybe I have created an application, web application one, right? I wanted to find out which page took the maximum time to load, which page took the minimum time to load, on which page or how many requests came in the last 1 hour. So how can I find that out? Let me repeat the question again. Question is, I am not using virtual machine. I am deploying my application using app services as a PaaS service. I have deployed web application one, let's say Jitin web application one. I wanted to find out which page, let's say it's a multi-tier, multi-page application. I'm saying which page is taking the maximum time to load, which page is taking a minimum time to load, right? Or maybe on my front page, maybe on my home page, how many requests have came during the last 1 hour. So how can I find that information?
Uh, Azure dashboard can we use?
You see, dashboard purpose is to display the information. Purpose
Okay.
of dashboard is to display the information. My question is, how can we find that information?
I wouldn't know. Uh,
Okay, see, very basic guys. See, can I collect the application matrices and the application logs from this application? Yes. Using the same log analytics workspace, you can collect the application matrices, you can collect the application logs. So now the application matrices and application log is available, right? So now the application matrices and application log is now available where? Now it is available inside the log analytics workspace. Can I create a query? Same crystal query language, the one that we discussed just now for the virtual machines. So can I create a query and can I say, okay, which page took the highest time to load up, which page took the lowest time to load up, and how many requests have came during the last 1 hour? You just need to write a query and you would be able to find this precise information, right? So that's how we would be able to do it, right? That's how they would be able to.
in general, in interviews, do they ask like all the variety of questions, or do they have any specific teams like in real time, like let's say a networking, there's a dedicated architect, and then in storage, there's a dedicated
Yeah,
architect.
architect level, so they expect everything like network, storage, or infrastructure
Absolutely.
monitoring.
Absolutely, guys. See, if you will be going at an architect level, absolutely, they will be expecting you everything. They will be expecting you to have good knowledge on compute, good knowledge on storage, good knowledge on networking, good knowledge on identity. So they expect you to do this. Nowadays, if you follow the trend, they even expect you to have some basic knowledge on application building. They also expect you to have some basic knowledge on DevOps and all that part as well. Right. So just wanted to give you a basic gist what kind of questions you may expect, right? Second, start appearing for the interviews. The more you appear, the more familiar you become with the interview set of questions. Right? But guys, one recommendation, just go through all the videos. If you go through all the videos, probably the 70-80% questions you would have already answered. So just revise the videos well. That will definitely give you an edge, right? Second is, in any training, we can just train you to a certain level. Now try to read the Microsoft Docs. Try to read the Microsoft Docs. When you read the Microsoft Docs, it will give you a very, very good amount of clarity on any particular service. Right? So try to read more and more. Try to do more and more labs. So that's how you basically get prepared. It's not like within 1 day or 1 week you will be prepared. Slowly and gradually over a period of time you'll be prepared. But start doing it from now onwards. Maybe in good couple of weeks you'll be prepared for any level of interview. Right? Any questions, any queries, guys? That's just wanted to give you a gist around this interview session. So if you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to ask, or else we can call it a day.
So if we are appearing, like what kind of experience do we show? Like we are already working on it, or like they ask, hey, what do you do on day-to-day basis? Uh, so what do we tell? Like,
I see. I don't think this question I can be answered by me. See, it entirely depends from a person to person.
no, because they, like
Now
what
I can,
happens
yeah,
now?
I can
Yeah,
guide you. I can give you
Means,
two things,
I
right?
just want to understand what
Yeah,
architect people, like for example, right now we are working for patching and all,
we
so
are
we
like,
manage patching and all.
yeah, we
So
our
I
yeah.
can give you two suggestions here, right? If you feel that you would be able to fool them around, when I say fool them around means, see, if they ask you any question on architecture, let's say either you tell them honestly that you are just doing patching, or you can tell them that okay, I have built some architectures maybe for my client. When you the moment you say that you have built some architectures, they may ask you certain questions, or they may ask you certain architects that you have built, right? If you have prepared it well, you would be able to answer that as well. That's not a challenge. It's only what kind of a preparation you have done. Right? So if they ask you, okay, if you need to design a highly available application, you also need to ensure the application should be highly distributed. Then you are storing that the data of that application maybe inside a SQL DB, and now you want to store the secret inside the key vault, and you would like to fetch the information from there. So if you would be able to, maybe you can just share your screen, just draw a diagram and tell them that this is how the architecture is going to connect. Over. It's over then and there, right? Now, if you will struggle telling them what is high availability, what is we use availability set for, what is we use availability zone for, then they will catch you then and there, right? So how well you prepare accordingly, you may say them that you have built the architectures. You may say them that okay, I have not built the architectures, I'm doing the day-to-day patching work. It's only your level of preparation will tell what exactly you are going to tell them in the interview.
Mhm.
See, no one is going to send an email to your manager and to ask, okay, is this person really do patching, or is this person really do architectural diagrams? So it's up to you how you manage it, right? But yeah, you have to show that in your interview. On that 30-40 minutes, 1 hour, you have to tell them that okay, you are capable to do this kind of job.
Yeah.
I hope I have given you a clarity, Shiv, like what exactly you were trying to ask.
Yeah.
All right. Any other question, guys? Anything for me?
um, no questions, but yes, I was just asking like what roles does architect play on day-to-day basis? Just asking, for example, like do they design new things, or just do they just manage the existing
Karan, it
infrastructure?
entirely depends for different organizations. In some organizations, you will see it will be a client-facing role. Many times you will have different clients where you will be designing on an architecture. See, designing an architecture, it's not a whole year activity. It could be done within a couple of weeks. Then you will be supporting that architecture. Let's say there are 50 functions app which are connecting maybe to some automation accounts, maybe which are connected to some SQL database. What is being generated from where? What is being going where? So then you will be supporting them in day-to-day life, just like you support your normal day-to-day activities. The architecture that you have built, now you will be supporting that architecture as well. That is also what Azure architects do, right? So because architecture will be over within some time, diagram will be over, implementation will be over, now you need to support that implementation. So it may varies from organization to organization. Hope you got the clarity there.
Yes.
All right, guys. So looks like we are good. So thank you all for your time. It was really nice interacting with you all. So have a good